Yes, I agree.
Unfortunate, George has to leave this meeting, so we cannot comment on this.
If I may help here, this is Athanasia again from EOSC and Hans. If you're referring to this pilot or case of NIFOS that it is currently prepared, the timeline is before summer break to be ready to technically onboard resources not existing already in EOSC portal. Of course, there is a lot of to be discussed for in cases where the resources already exist and how they are updated and all this discussion about BID. However, currently this is the timeline. We're having a unidirectional case here first as a first step, and before summer break, this is the plan.
What is and when is before summer break? Because summer break can be now, if you look at the finish, or somewhere in August.
No, before August, within the month.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
But this means, sorry, this means that this is the timeline for the integration of the NIFOS use case. But when the other catalog operator can start playing with it, can start digesting the agreement that you are putting in place for NIFOS.
Exactly. This is the point after having this pilot case to create the steps and all the process and maybe an agreement so that the other catalogs can follow and maybe optimize it further. So for this next step, there has not been yet a discussion. I guess also people from EOSC Future need to be involved, and I guess after summer break.
I see also in there's mention about the PED, and that would be discussed. I cannot imagine that that discussion will be finished before summer break. Is that part of the discussion for with NIFOS, or because I assume that will be in broader discussion?
No. PID, no. That's
okay.
why it's a unidirectional integration at this point, and only for resources not already existing in EOSC portal. So there is no any problem of onboarding them. So for the next steps for bi-directional integration and for existing resources, it's a separate case, and this will be followed up after summer break, I guess.
But something has been already solved. So, for example, at the moment, the procedure is the following. So we are sending requests to the EOSC Central Marketplace and the information that are stored within our catalog. And then as a result, we are retrieving PID from the EOSC Marketplace. So this then PID is integrated within the Agora, and it is used for further synchronization.
Mm-hmm.
At the moment, the Marketplace does not assign any PIDs. Will assign an identifier, but that cannot be considered as a PID.
Why? What is the difference?
Because there is no description that it is a local identifier, and you need to full URL.
It is some number that is unique from the marketplace perspective.
Yeah.
It is an identifier, not a PID, a persistent identifier that is there and is characterized by metadata that are expected to be there for the long time. It's an identifier that we all agree on it. Yeah. It is not, technically speaking, a persistent identifier.
Yeah, but I mean, this is Central Marketplace, so there is a single place, yeah?
I know that there might be discussions under EOSC Future. That's why I mentioned that before, involving people from there about the PID. Mark, I don't know if you are already aware about this. So I guess this is a mandatory step before we do the full aspect integration.
I was not fully aware of this discussion, but I think we should have this discussion.
Yeah.
And I think if we assign PEDs and the PEDs are assigned within the portal environment, that we need also a discussion about how the PEDs are being assigned. How do you do version management? Which PEDs are assigned for the different versions? The landing page, but also when a service is being deprecated, how do you handle this? And are the PEDs still maintained, and what kinds of metadata is maintained within the marketplace for deprecated services? So for me, there is a little bit of more discussion on this. And I think, yeah, there's no problem that you can use the current identifiers, which are local to the marketplace or to the provider portal initially. But if you want to assign amend PEDs for the long term, then we need some more discussion on this.
Yeah, but to be honest, I don't fully understand, Mark. So, for example, now you have this big project, EOSC Future, that is responsible for the catalog. So they are providing unique identifiers to the resources, collecting all informations that are required by the EOSC specification. What else? What else should we add here to be persistent?
At the moment, it is not clear that these identifiers are persistent and that the information where it refers to is persistent and that you can refer this officially. At the moment, the identifiers are local, and because we have only one central catalog, therefore you can say they are local, unique to this catalog. But if all catalogs are assigned PEDs, then the story goes a little bit different.
Yeah, but and therefore we have this. We have already it is already implemented this synchronization of the IDs. So the EOSC central portal, as a result of registration, issues identifier that is unique for all EOSC environment, and this ID is stored within local NIFOS Europe catalog.
I think that the opinion of the PEDs is slightly different, but in EOSC Future we have a topic to discuss this further. And I think that we should have some dedicated meetings on this. How do you what is the concept of the PEDs for services within the EOSC domain? How these can be leveraged by other catalogs, but also how the minting is being done, but also how do you relate services which are rigid in regional or cluster catalogs be related to the EOSC catalog. And
yeah, I completely understand you, but is there any crucial feature that I cannot see at the moment?
For example, in EOSC Nordic, one use case would be service referral. This means that if one research work is using HPC services, then the authors of the research work can refer to that service by PID in their research work, and in that case we can measure the impact of this particular service.
Yes.
So this is the one use case.
Yeah, and one of the other things is also, for example, if you look at the current PEDs, or at least identifiers which be assigned, which are very linked to EOSC portal or marketplace.eosportal.eu. And I will not guarantee for the future that the domain name EOSC portal will stay forever. Maybe we'll go to EOSC or maybe to something else. We don't know. Therefore, the naming scheme which we currently have chosen is not persistent on this. And also, what is also not said is, for example, if you deprecate the service, if the deprecated services will be maintained in the provider portal in the marketplace, so that you can refer to this, to have at least a not broken link to the PEDs which you refer into, maybe publications.
Well, I mean, okay, I agree, but in general, we are at the moment working within the EOSC, so if we cannot guarantee, who can?
No, but that is, I think, part of the discussion to see, how far do you guarantee, what can be guaranteed, and what policies or practices do you have to guarantee this? And I think therefore we need a discussion to set this baseline of what should be guaranteed or not.
Okay, can we have an action? Can we propose an action on this? So to have a meeting on PIDs, a dedicated meeting on PIDs. So,
can I ask something?
Yes.
Related to this. So this is Mario David. The PIDs. So I'm sorry if I'm not too into information about the PIDs. So EOSC plans to have their own persistent identifiers. Is that it? And how this relates, because, for example, for data and publications, for example, you have, I don't know, but data site ORCID and all that stuff, which is paid, or is this related only to services? And the other thing is that if you go beyond Europe, I mean, would this be still valid? These PIDs?
I cannot say if we go beyond Europe, but the PID should be globally referable, so that, okay, even if you are outside of Europe, you should you can be referred to this PID.
That's the point of PID, I guess.
And that is, yeah, that's the whole point of PID. So it is not that if you go outside Europe or outside of EOSC, then the PIDs are not working. But I think it is more around the policies and the practices of how to assign the PIDs for which purposes, and how do you relate PIDs which are assigned for maybe the same service, which are in different catalogs. I think there we need a little bit of more thinking. And then the question if EOSC is assigning this, or we more describe, okay, what is what are the guidelines or practices to assign PIDs for services, so that it can be adopted across different catalogs, and EOSC will do the same practices, or the PID should be requested at EOSC that, okay, if you want to assign the PID for a service, then you request a PID by the service provided by EOSC. That is at the moment, for me, open to discussion, and we have a task within EOSC Future to further discuss this.
Yeah.
And of course, we need to include also the catalog owners from the regional and the cluster projects to see, okay, what would be in common practice of doing this.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so can the output of this first discussion be an action to organize a dedicated meeting on service PIDs?
I think that we can pick up this discussion also in the EOSC Future, where the people are involved, and then when we have this meeting and there's a clear need for this meeting, that we organize this also from EOSC Future point of view.
Mark, one other thing. So the service PIDs would also service would include, for example, computing and storage resources, for example.
At the moment, I would think that.
Or for discussion.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of discussion, but there is a difference between if you assign a PID for a service, and that can be any kind of service, can be computing service, can be storage service, can be a workflow service, or can be anything. But the assigning resources or a PID to the request of resources, that is different. And that is also, I think, a different kind of practice, because then you have maybe many different resource requests for the same service. The PID for the service can be included then within the resource request. That is what I can imagine.
Yeah.
But the first start for me would be to assign PIDs for the services, so that it can be used also in later practices.
Okay,
Sorry, Mark, I didn't understand. What is what you see as a difference between any resource and, I don't know, high performance computing center cluster?
No, what we, for example, see also from my organization, and that is maybe we have a supercomputer in the Netherlands, and we can assign a PED to the supercomputer. So the service will get this PED.
Yeah.
But if you request resources, that is a separate process to get access to the service, and maybe you get an allocation of 5 million hours resources on the supercomputer.
Yes.
And you can also, for example, assign this resource request in PED. And that is a separate kind of PED where you track, for example, the requests and resources being granted to access a service. And then you have a separate PED for the service itself.
So you want to say if we organize open call for use of computational resources, for each project within the call, we will issue independent PID.
Yeah, then you can track the granting of the resource request itself. And then you can refer to this grant of resources. But if you have a call with 10 grants in the end, then each grant will have its own PED to track the individual grants, but they will include the PED of the service where the resources are being granted from. And that will be on the supercomputer, or maybe one is for the supercomputer and the other is for a cluster computer, or some is for a cloud computer, or maybe a storage service. And then you can track different resources within a grant, but related to the precision identifiers for the different infrastructures, for the different services being granted access to.
Okay, let's.
And what is the purpose, or why it is important to register project itself? I mean, who will be interested for such a resource?
Perhaps we're going a bit off track.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we should focus on service interoperability, catalog interoperability. Sorry.
Yeah.
So perhaps we are going a bit off topic. Let's
maybe we can have a separate discussion on this somewhere in via Skype or something at a later time. That is no problem.
Okay. So as for, sorry, but yeah, we don't have infinite time.
No.
So as for the action of organizing the service PID meeting, can we put Mark as the owner of this task?
Yeah, I will pick this up and I will discuss this internally with EOSC that we should organize something for this.
Okay, and as for the date, I don't think we can set a date right now, right?
Not at this moment, and probably not before summer break.
Okay, great. Okay, so there are other points that my colleague Luciano wrote here before this meeting. Like, for example, there is this bullet point to be discussed, that is, how can a catalog operator act on behalf of the service providers onboarded in their catalog to propagate their information to the interoperating catalog? Which credentials have to be used? Federico, please move the document to the bullet. So yes, it's no down. Yes, that one. Is the one that is being highlighted. Yes, this one. So I think that this was partially at least answered by the presentations that we had before, right? This should be the...
Not really. I believe that this is part of the process that is currently in place in the interaction between NIFOS and the central catalog. Because right now, we are aware only of the procedure for onboarding that the service provider can use in order to onboard their services directly into the EOSC catalog. Here instead is the case where services have been onboarded into a local catalog, and in order to be onboarded into the central catalog, the local catalog need to be provided with the suitable credential that make it possible for the catalog to register service provider into the overall catalog and to register resource profile into the overall catalog. Is this expected to be done by specific, credential? Don't know. I didn't manage to get more information, and I believe this is the central part of the agreement that are currently in place into the prototype, right?
I do not know the specific details of the work done currently within EFOS.
Yeah.
But I certainly think that that should be somewhere on separate credentials, and you need also separate agreements, because it has also to do with different responsibility. Who is allowed to change what? Because at the moment, the resource providers themselves have the access to maintain their own resources listed within their resource profile. If you want to do that from a catalog owner point of view, then you need access to those different profiles where you register those resources. And that is something technical, but also something on the policy and agreement level that you are allowed to do this. And I assume that will be figured out in the NIFOS pilot to see what is then required and what is needed, probably also mostly on the technical side, but you need also to look at the agreement side that you are doing this. Probably the current thinking is maybe that you have a separate onboarding procedure for catalog owners, so that you have different agreements on this, but that also enables different capabilities to do this.
Yeah, if someone from technical team is here, so probably he can give more information. But as far as I understand, the token is used for these purposes, because before a few months we have this problems with the token retrieval. So we were able to do it manually, but now recently this automatic way for catalog authentication is provided. So now the catalog itself is able to retrieve the token and publish information to the EOSC marketplace, as far as I know.
Yeah, if I can confirm this, yes, I'm not in the technical team, but yes, I know that this is solved, and actually I know that they can retrieve a long-living token, because before it was for a very short period. So yes, this is done via the token.
I'm sorry, I didn't get which token we are speaking about. Do you mean that a local catalog can be provided, or is expected to be provided with the token to operate on behalf of the service providers?
Exactly, on behalf of consortium, yeah.
I said for the onboarding, for the onboarding of the resources, they get the API token and they can onboard their resources. Now, in terms of operation and who is making changes or not, and how these changes are synchronized, this is not yet implemented. However, it is part of the generic assumptions that we started with, and of course this needs to be expanded, that of course the EOSC portal should be the top hierarchical level, and whenever a change is done on one side or the other, this somehow needs to be synchronized. Again, this is not done yet, but it was discussed, and it is part of the assumptions that maybe the latest timestamp will be the one to override the other, the one that with the latest timestamp. But yet, this is to be confirmed and implemented. And maybe also George from the technical team, but I know he's not here today. Maybe you can access him and have more discussion on this technical level with him.
Okay, so I guess that we will have to come back to this after the summer break. Is that correct? Okay.
Well, an action might be to document at a certain point in time the procedure and the decision that have been taken in order to onboard the NIFOS, to implement the NIFOS pilot, because it's still not clear to me here whether the catalog is becoming a service provider. What is the token that we are discussing about? You know what I mean? The catalog is a concept that is not the concept of the service provider that managed to onboard its service into the local catalog. So there is a sort of indirection between the service provider and the resources that have to be onboarded into the central catalog. So either the local catalog is provided with the identity to operate on behalf of the service provider, or there is something else. But there is an indirection between the service provider and the global catalog.
Yeah, I agree with you, Leonardo. So in our case, to be political correct, the catalog on behalf of resource providers onboarding resources to the EOSC.
Okay.
I think the discussion of the token at the moment is, I think, more just the authorization token that they can access the catalog. For me, it is still different if you describe, okay, which catalog owner is allowed to register which kind of service and which provider. And that is not just only done by having a token, but that is also more at the privilege level.
Yeah, and at the moment I'm working on the deliverable that from procedural perspective describes all this integration between the catalogs, and it will be ready during the week. So I will share it via onboarding task force messaging system.
Okay, so the deliverable will include the procedure Leonardo was talking about?
Yes. So not technical procedure, but procedural procedure. So just main steps of integration between the catalogs. Yeah.
Okay, and when is the deliverable due?
Sorry.
What is the deadline of the deliverable?
It is 1st July, but yeah, it is almost ready. I will share in a week.
Okay. And will it be public? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we put this as an action point that perhaps include the one which was suggested by Leonardo, right? I don't know if Leonardo meant to have something more technical, more detailed.
Whatever it is, this is the pilot that they are going to test. The first integration between a regional catalog and the EOSC catalog, and some decision or some proposal are going to be made. Then we can discuss by starting on this decision and assumption to figure out whether they work for everyone or they need to be fine-tuned in order to better meet the expectation of other catalog operators.
At the end, I think this kind of deliverable also information should evolve to a documentation which is on the provider portal, specifically for catalog owners, so that they know what to do if they want to onboard a catalog into EOSC.
Right.
Okay, can we put this as an action point also?
I think this will probably more discussed also in the other breakout session, because that is about policies and agreements.
Yeah, right. Okay. Okay, if there is no, I consider this point closed for the moment. So let's go to the next one, which is how to make the selection of entries in a catalog to be imported easy and effective. Which kind of technical implementation can be made in common among the different catalogs? Is it worth defining appropriate flags to mark updated records?
maybe I can elaborate on this because not necessarily it is clear. So from the, let's say, conceptual point of view, this is an issue that you face every time one catalog is going to collect item from other catalogs. Okay, so we have seen that the current API that the EOSC catalog offers is based on a number of methods that, for instance, make it possible to fetch all the resources, or to fetch resources by using their ID, or to fetch resources by making, let's say, filter on specific attributes. The point is that, so this is what is on the table right now from the API point of view. Once you started discussing about making this interoperability between catalog systematic, you might request, for instance, that the query you would like to pose is only give me the difference between my last access and now. Rather than having to fetch the entire content, filter it locally, and then to identify the differences. So I don't know if this was clear. And this kind of request, in essence, require modification on the API a catalog might offer. And this modification or this specific method can be implemented both into the EOSC catalog as well as into a local catalog. This way, it is possible to implement in a more, let's say, effective way this exchange of information between two catalogs, or in general, between a data provider and the data consumer.
So substantially, you're proposing some kind of flagging or versioning of the entries in the catalog, right? Or
this is something, but as I said, I do expect that one catalog can ask to another catalog, give me only the record that you change between 1st February and the 28th of February. And things like that.
Okay.
I think it is also different if you're talking about a push mode or a pull mode, because the requirement you mentioned is more something from a pull mode, so that the central catalog can query different catalogs to see what the changes are, so that it can update the records. That I think is less specific for the push mode, because then you know that the catalog is the central place where the changes are, which are pushed to the central catalog. But at the moment, I think it is only they work only in the push mode.
Yeah, this is discussed in the next bullet. If you see, so the ordering maybe is not. In essence, whenever you have two entities that are expected to exchange information, you can set up pull and push model. Right now, if we see from the point of view of the EOSC catalog, there is only the push model, meaning that service providers are expected to push their resource profile directly into the EOSC catalog. And this is the model that is now in place. But let's think also that there is the opposite way, meaning that the central catalog can fetch content from a local catalog. But not only that, let's consider the willingness to a local entity to set up its own catalog. So again, I can think to put in place pull and push by using the point of view of the local catalog. So this means that the local catalog can pull information from the EOSC catalog for certain resources. So discussing this pull and push modality is important, and I believe that both of them should be discussed by taking into account the EOSC catalog point of view as well as the local catalog point of view, because even the local catalog or a thematic catalog can be populated by fetching, content from another catalog. And here it is really important that the pull approach is there, because, we cannot expect that the same services is expected to be onboarded in plenty of catalog because it is of interest from this plenty of catalog. We would like to put in place mechanism where this profile flow across these instances.
I fully understand, and I also agree that these kind of scenarios should be discussed and also be worked out. I think it is also somewhat more at the planning, okay, because we cannot do all the developments at once. Maybe to have some kind of an order to see where would we focus first to enable and what would be more than gradually done in later phases. But I think also the discussion which we should have is on the planning and the prioritization, which capabilities should be implemented first and what should be next.
Yes, and in parallel with the prioritization, you know, we can try to design together some API, because you know, if you have an API for the pool, let's put in this way, this API might be implemented on the old catalog to facilitate the exchange of information. So if we design together the API, we somehow are standardizing how this API will look like in the various catalog, and then every catalog operator can implement this API specification according to its own availability of effort and stuff like that. But at least we managed to agree on a sort of standard API that can be used to facilitate the exchange of information across catalogs.
Yeah, I agree that the co-design is, I think, important. And maybe this can also be facilitated through EOS Future, where we already have a dedicated task on the EOS core services, and this is part of this. And that is not only, I think, for the API, but also, for example, for the profiles and the vocabulary, because you should be able to support this via the API, but also the catalog owners should be able to support this.
Okay, so can we set the action to, let's say, the action would be to co-create to co-design and co-create the API, but I think this is not a task which is this is a big task, right? And I don't
absolutely
think
absolutely, and I believe that you know, certainly who should be in the driving seat is EOSC Future. I mean, is the project that will lead the development of the central catalog. So this activity should be driven by Future because it is in the mandate of the project. But as much as possible, it should made thus to involve some catalog or some operator that are already there. So what instrument are expected to be used in order to support this co-creation activity is open, and as Mark said, it is about everything, because it is about the profile, it is about the API, it is about and I believe it is not only a matter of technical stuff, but it is also a matter of the overall you know, process, so including the policy.
yes, so an achievable action perhaps would be to have an ad hoc meeting to see how this can be tackled, involving also, let's say, policy people. Would that make sense?
For me, I think the initial meeting would then, I think, more discussing, okay, how do you want to set up this more structurally, so that you have a team of stakeholders which discuss this on a more regular basis, how you would evolve the API, but also the profiles in the future. And I think what would be the stakeholders is, of course, the people who are developing the service and the APIs and the maintaining the profiles within the future, but also the stakeholders from the regional project, but also from the cluster projects, because at the end, they have an opinion, but also at the end, they should adapt to these kind of profiles and APIs. Therefore, I would say they are a stakeholder in all the discussion. And I would more dedicate then to have this meeting to see, okay, what kind of procedures, team, group should you set up so that you do this on a more regular basis, so that you can evolve the APIs, but also the profiles in a structured way.
Mark, I'm wondering whether there is certainly there is no task force dedicated to this topic, but one of the task forces that the EOSC Association is setting up deals with, let's say, deals with data and service interoperability. I'm wondering whether this discussion that we are trying to have now falls under the umbrella of, probably falls under the umbrella of this task force.
At the moment, I'm not sure, but I think that the task force on interoperability between data and services is I think a little bit broader in scope, specific on the catalogs. But within EOS Future, we have within the architecture work package, we have a dedicated task on the EOS core, and this being really part of the EOS core services, maintaining the resource profiles, but also the API. I think we can organize this within this task. And at the moment, if you look at most of this type of discussion, I think it's still in EOSC Enhanced, but we also discussed in this how this can be transferred, the maintenance and evolution of the profiles itself can be transferred also to the future, so that we can continue this.
Okay, so shall we still go with the action to set up a dedicated meeting to define what is needed? And can we assign this action to Mark, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it should not be the scope, because I'm from EOS Future and I comment that all the action points are assigned to me.
I'm sorry about that, but it looks like.
Anastasia, because you are also representing EOSC Enhanced on this, and you are maintaining the process of the discussions for also the profiles.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think we can set this up?
I know that there is an effort of coordinating between EOSC Enhanced and EOSC Future, and if I'm not wrong, there is, for all these matters, and if I'm not wrong, there is a meeting this week to initiate these discussions. I'm not sure which date. And on top, we have a weekly meeting every Tuesday, actually it's tomorrow, between NIFOS team and EOSC Enhanced technical teams, and that they coordinate all this process of this pilot, let's say, project. So I can convey the message there and see how we can proceed.
Yeah, I think for the meeting with the handover between Enhanced and Future, I think this topic can be discussed. Okay, that we next to the handover, we have to see, okay, how can we include the regional projects and the cluster projects into this discussion. But that I think that is slightly different as the handover, because the handover is also okay, who is responsible, who is maintaining the current resources and where it is maintained, and just practical stuff. But next to this, I think we need a broader discussion. Then we should discuss, probably it will, I think, can be conveyed from EOSC Future via from the EOSC Future tasks. But because we are still in, I think in the balance between Enhance and EOSC Future, that should be also included.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. And in Enhance, as you very well know, we have already a process in place for the changes, for the profiles. People they can propose, we collect them in a structured way, we discuss them, and then we implement them or not. The same for the onboarding process. So yes, all this should involve more people, clusters, and any other, and to be expanded and further discussed. Yes.
And I think if you look at this also in Enhance and in the Future, most of the same people are involved. It's only the question, okay, which hat do I have?
Absolutely, yes, and that's why all this, let's say, handover process kind of, has to be done so that we can proceed and involve all the people necessary. Yeah.
Related with the future plan, do you confirm that what Owen presented this morning will be with us with a long time, meaning that if I get it right, there is no willingness to onboard software, to onboard data into the EOSC catalog, but the EOSC catalog is expected to remain, in essence, a catalog of services. And in addition to any service, that there will be a specific typology of service that are more data services, like a repository of software or a repository of dataset, but this will remain, the level of granularity of resources that will be handled. So this means that if I will go to the EOSC catalog, the best that I will do is to identify a repository of dataset that might be of interest. I will certainly not identify a dataset of interest.
If I look at this, I don't think that a user will in the future can click on the EOSC portal or on the provider portal, I want to onboard my dataset. Data sets or data or any kind of research product will be onboarded through other kinds of services. For example, data sources or a software repository in itself. And I think EOSC can provide guidelines, directions to see, okay, where can you then onboard your data set if you require to do this, or if you want to publish your software, where can you publish your software so that it becomes discoverable through EOSC. What is certainly within the scope of the EOSC developments or in EOSC future developments is to make research products discoverable. So that you can search for data, but also any kind of research product from EOSC point of view. Next to that, you can search for services. You should also be able to search for research products. Those activities are part of the EOSC Future work plan to make this happen. But still, if you want to onboard a software or a data set, probably that will be done mostly through already available repositories for doing this. But I see maybe there's a slight difference maybe of how you want to handle software or data sources. At the moment, what we are discussing within EOSC Enhance is to have an extension of the current resource profiles, specifically so that you can onboard data sources, but also describe data sources better as what you do with basic services, because there are additional elements, additional kind of information which can be provided for data sources. And at the moment, we are working to look for an extension to describe data sources.
And Mark, maybe research products as well, or not?
At the moment, not research products, but we are focusing on data sources, but in a more generic point of view, so that you can have different kinds of data sources. And software is a kind of data source, data sets is a kind of data source, but you also have services and repositories where you can onboard both data and software. If you look at Zenodo, you can onboard data sets, but you can also publish software in Zenodo.
Actually, thanks, Mark, for replying to my point. But my question was also a bit tries to go a bit further, meaning that now we are somehow discussing about a process where a catalog operator onboards a catalog into EOSC as a side effect of this. We obtain that all the services that have been onboarded into the local catalog are also onboarded into the EOSC catalog. So I was thinking about a process where I'm going to onboard into the EOSC catalog a data source, and as a side effect of that, I do expect that the data set that this data source make available are going to be onboarded somewhere, not into the EOSC catalog, but somewhere into EOSC. So this is the.
No, I fully understand this, and that is also one of the things and the topics which we are discussing. For example, I discussed this mostly also with Paolo Mangi from OpenAir to see how this automated process is to be done. And for example, if you onboard a data source, then automatically the data source is being harvested by the resource product catalog, and so all the content of the data source is made discoverable. We are discussing this, but you need some certainly additional information on how is then, for example, the metadata being described. So that you can harvest this according to which standards, according to which metadata. Because if you want to harvest this kind of information, then you need to do some kind of mapping between the metadata standard adopted by the data source to the standard via which is being harvested. So this, to some extent, you can automate this if it is a very clear standard and you have crosswalks available. But our experience is also that more discussion is needed between the data source owner to discuss the mappings via which the data source is being harvested.
Okay, thank you. So we have about 25 minutes left. I see that I don't know if we can have an action out of this latest discussion, as I think it's quite a work in progress, right? And it's something that is being done on EOSC Future.
The current status of the process, and it is mostly done within the concept of EOSC Canals, is that we have been discussing the extension to the resource profiles for data sources. And we are far in this discussion to establish this. But the next step is, okay, that if we have the extensions, how is this extension being incorporated within the provider portal, within the API, so that you can register next to services or provide additional information about data sources, so that you can onboard data sources more explicitly. The next step on this is, okay, if you have a data source, can this be made harvestable automatically or to a large extent? So there are a number of steps before we come to this end.
Mark, if I may propose, and please feel free to comment on this, we had this, let's say, regular meeting on the profiles, and we can have all these discussions. The last one was postponed because there was not really any issues raised to be discussed. I'm thinking of calling another meeting after summer break at the end of August, let's say, early September, coming close to the EOSC let's say, completion project, just to summarize what changes we have in profiles, and this needs to be documented as well. We have also a deliverable to report this, and maybe in this meeting we can call also people from clusters, or that we can expand this discussion, and by then all this handover between enhance and future will have more or less been in place, so it is a smooth, let's say, transfer or kind of handover.
Yeah, this is possible, and I hope that we are at a sufficient stage that we can present then the changes. And the current, what we try to do is, by the extension of the data source, that we propose this as an extension to the data source, but also an update of the profile itself to a new version.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. The output of this discussion is that we have action points that are mostly on EOSC Enhance, EOSC Future, and we have a task, only one task, which is involving NIFOS. So what can the regional projects do? Which actions can be taken by the regional projects to...
Don't ask what the regional project can do for you, but ask what you can do for regional projects.
Yes, exactly.
So how the famous saying goes.
From the EOSC-Pillar point of view, we would like to test somehow. We are ready. We have a catalog in place. So as soon as the NIFOS pilot experience will be documented, we can certainly contribute to this discussion. And if there is interest, we can think about transferring the profile that we managed to collect, and we will continue to collect into the Italian catalog, also into the EOSC catalog. But this will happen certainly after the break, because we need to wait, if I understand it correctly, that the NIFOS pilot is fully implemented, and there is a guideline or something to follow, even from the point of view of who is developing the overall EOSC catalog. So okay, the action might be for Pillar to try to replicate the experience that NIFOS is doing, and to validate and contribute to the document, to onboard our services, or the service. Let's say a different way. We can have two typology of catalog in Pillar. We already have the catalog for the Italian community, but we can also set up a catalog. Catalog is already there. It is only a matter of registering services in it, stemming from the Pillar project. So we can decide to onboard the EOSC-Pillar services into the overall EOSC catalog. Is exactly the same. The technology is the same. The profile are the one compliant with the the EOSC settings. So it is just a matter of populating an instance of the catalog and then transfer this service profile into the overall EOSC catalog.
Leonardo, if I may propose, because tomorrow we have a weekly regular meeting with the NIFOS team, the technical team, and also the technical team from the University of Athens, that they are doing the APIs and all this stuff. What I remember is that the technical part is almost done, and they needed some kind of coordination with NIFOS. Dusan, please correct me if I'm wrong. In order to proceed with the onboarding, I can mention to the team, since most of the people will be there, that we can have a similar kind of coordination with EOSC-Pillar already, without waiting maybe after summer break, at least to put some assumptions, some steps, and some timeline, if you wish. If you think
we are willing to test, yeah. So we are fine. If you can go, we will be happy to contribute.
Great. Let me check the availability of people tomorrow, because already some vacation are already there, some people leaving already on annual leave, and I'll come back to you if I have your contact details.
Yeah, from the NIFOS Europe side, somehow I think that when we finish with all this integration of the external catalogs with the EOSC, that we will end up with a lot of resources that are somehow equal from the endpoint user perspective. So I think that it would be useful to discuss more on how we will measure quality of particular research, and regarding this, how we will extend the current EOSC profiles to include some fields, some fields where we will put numbers or something like that, but some values that will allow us to sort resources within the catalog by relevance or something like that.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. What about the other regional projects?
Hi, this is Mario. So this is about our, let's say, our kind of request to have badges shown in the EOSC marketplace. From the technical point of view, I don't know what it means, let's say. In my simplistic view, it would be a kind of to have a kind of a placeholder that, or an API to the catalog that would permit to put or to post the URL with the badge that has been issued for a given service. And then, as I said, the badge itself is as a report about the software quality assurance that has passed for that given service.
Maybe comment from Nordic side. We are the current, like the situation in EOSC-Pillar, the portal is ready, catalog is in place, and we can start the pushing process to EOSC portal. But before that, I guess this will happen in autumn, due to the fact that we have to sort out which the policy side, which contracts or agreements are necessary, so we can act on behalf of the service providers.
Okay, if you have in mind some specific action which is achievable with a defined date, please write them in the chat so that Federico can pick them up and collect them in the shared document. Okay, thank you. So I think we have all the input. I don't know if you want to discuss something else. We have like 13 minutes.
Actually, I have one point. if I may.
Yes, please.
This will affect more or less all regional platforms and EOSC in Central. From the Nordic side, one idea is that what if we implement a common AI solution across all EOSC service and catalogs, and also the EOSC marketplace. This will ensure that the identity references are done using globally unique identifier and not derived info like email or something like that. What do you think about this common AI? Because, for example, in Nordic, we will use EduGain, and EOSC is using itself EOSC AI solution. I'm not sure how it's done in INFRAEOSC or in Pillar. Or...
Yeah, I mean, Agora is fully integrated with what is the name? On G with EduGain. So all institutional credentials could be used, but also I think that the EOSC EJ you mentioned is also somehow part of that package, so you could use whatever
at the moment you have. At the moment, the EOSC portal AI is based on check-in, and there you have EduGain, but also different kind of proxies available for you via which you can log in. And I think that it should at the end, because there's also a big task to set up the EOSC AI Federation, so that you can log in via the EOSC AI Federation, also on the EOSC portal.
And I confirm that in the case of Pillar, we made two different experiences. One is to be interoperable with the check-in solution that Mark is describing right now. So in order to populate the catalog, in essence, you can use every identity that is recognized by the EOSC portal identity solution. So we are interoperable with it. But we also set up a dedicated instance of an AI solution based on Indigo YAM. So we do have these two solutions for what regards AI.
That should be no problem, that you have these different technical solutions. Therefore, we're also setting up the EOSC AI Federation, where if you conform to the EOSC AI Federation and to the ARC blueprint, but also to the policies of the EOSC AI Federation, then they should be able to connect to each other, because that is the whole purpose of having this the AI Federation, so that you can connect different kind of proxies from different organizations to each other.
Yeah, so also, yeah, I forgot to mention that we are also supporting these social identities, and I guess that there will be a problem once we decide to measure accounting usage of research, and somehow we will need to find solution how to merge the merge different accounts used by the same person.
With the social media accounts, this is the issue that the assurance level is quite low.
This is only for authentication purposes, and then we have this layer of authorization.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think if the authentication level is low, certainly if you look at social identities, then the question is, how far are you authorized to a high level of assurance? And that should not be the case, because therefore you need a stronger authentication method.
Okay. Does anybody else want to add something? Any other topic for discussion? If there is nothing else, then perhaps we can have a break until 12:30 and rejoin the other breakout session at 12:30.